Everything you do only says you gotta figure it out.
Hey, what's up guys, George Lyons here, welcome back to the Soccernomics YouTube channel, and today we're going to be talking about Newcastle United. More specifically, we're going to be talking about their new potential technical director. His name is Dan Ashworth. You may recognise his name from Brighton Hove Albion. He has just left his position at the club as technical director after 3 very successful years at the club. And yeah, we're going to be talking about what he can potentially do and add to Newcastle United, who he is, what's his background, and pretty much what his role entails, what is a technical director. But before we get into that, guys, obviously just got to let you know to hit that subscribe button if you are new. If you like football finance, football economics, that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the channel for you guys, so I can't stress enough to hit that button. And yeah, apart from that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and let's get into it. Dan Ashworth, at the time of filming, has just resigned from his position as technical director at Brighton Hove Albion, where he spent just under 3 years with the Seagulls. Before that, he was actually the director of elite development with the English FA for 6 years, where he was one of the people who helped revamp the England setup, and obviously one of the people who could take responsibility for England's run in the 2018 World Cup, where they reached the semi-finals. Sadly, of course, not reaching the final. Currently on what is called GardenLeave, which essentially means that you can't actually take up work elsewhere during a certain period of time, or usually like your notice period. Even though he's not actually been appointed as technical director of Newcastle United yet, the fact that they actually approached him for the job only a few months ago, the fact they haven't found one yet, and the fact that he's actually left his position at Brighton Hove Albion, it's looking increasingly likely that he will be ending up at Newcastle United in the near future, or by the time you're actually watching this video, he's probably already been appointed by the club, and yeah, you're just trying to find out more about what his role is and what it means for Newcastle United in the future. Either way, Dan Ashworth leaves a legacy at Brighton Hove Albion after contributing significant development to the men's first team, the women's team, and the academy setup. But I know what you're asking right now. What is a technical director? A technical director, or a sporting director, or even a director of football, as you might know it as, is essentially a person who oversees the entire football department of a football club. In this department, you're basically looking at several other departments. So the men's first team, the women's team, the academy, the loans department. You're also looking at recruitment department, but also things like the medical department and also the psychology and mental well-being department. And basically a technical director's job is to try and connect and make sure and align all of these different departments together for one common direction. His role is to implement things like a playing philosophy, as in an alignment between the playing squads, the academy, the recruitment process, and also the loans department, so that there is a clear direction and strategy for coaching staff and playing staff, but also there is some sort of direction and help in the recruitment process so they can identify players to fit a specific role, or in the loans department where they can send out a player to a club that has a very similar or something close to the philosophy that the club has itself, so that they can learn and develop externally. There's some other ways that you can also align these different departments, such as like nutrition, fitness, and also psychology as well. The idea is to create consistency, because with consistency you create cohesion, and with cohesion you create unity, and with unity you get one club. This doesn't create a robot as such, it's not barriers, but instead it's a strategy and a framework for development and improvement long term. With this alignment, this allows the club to recruit and develop young players in the academy to eventually play in the first team and be sufficient in the playing style that the club desires. Now, if there isn't someone in the academy that can fill in and step up in a role in the first team that needs fill-in, then they can obviously go out and recruit someone who fits the criteria in the first team, who can slot in straight away and obviously do a job to be able to win games. Having a technical director creates the ability to connect the boardroom to the pitch. Now, every single club has a board. Every single club has a chairman, a CEO, there's budgets, there's philosophies, and there's principles. So there's an importance of getting across the club values, maximizing the club's budget, and making sure you're spending the club's money the right way. To be able to translate this both ways is really important, because you need to be able to not only get across the board's philosophies and principles onto the training ground, but also vice versa into the boardroom. As a technical director, it is also important to make sure that you're opening and creating opportunities for young players. It's important to make sure that the recruitment department and the academy department are working together, so that you aren't recruiting players for a position that someone in the academy is more than capable of filling in the first team. Collaboration is absolutely key with Dan Ashworth. In fact, when it came to joining up the academy at Brighton Hove Albion with a pathway all the way up to the first team, he made sure that there was actually a document called the Brighton Way, which was sort of like a philosophy handbook on Brighton Hove Albion's philosophy, and he did that to help familiarise the players but also staff members, everyone at the club, of what the Brighton philosophy was. He actually worked his way up to a technical director's role through working in different youth departments in football clubs, and so that is really something that he's passionate about in his role, and something that he's been so successful at, not only in the England setup but also at Brighton Hove Albion particularly. Now, in football there is a temptation. there's a temptation to go out and recruit players who are able to play football now, to be able to slot in the first team straight away and play and do a job now. But it's really important to be able to take a step back and have a look at what you have at your disposal. Because if you have a decent academy and a philosophy, realistically, your best option should be looking right at you in terms of an academy prospect who knows how you play and has been playing in a way that is at your standard. But it also is really important not to just throw kids into the mix and just sink or swim. So there is a little bit of like timing and management and nurturing when it comes to a technical director. Ashworth is also a firm believer in looking after staff and player mental welfare and psychology. He understands that football is a very high stakes game, very high pressure, and that can take its toll on football players and staff members as well. You can imagine coaching staff and that as well. And you've got to understand that they are just humans. It may seem hard to believe, but they are just humans, and they also need that support and help as well. So he likes to make sure that the resources and the support is there around the club for everyone. So what has Dan Ashworth actually achieved at Brighton Hove Albion? Well, let's think back to when he first joined the club. This was when basically the Seagulls were scrapping for survival in the Premier League. I don't know if you can remember, but when Chris Hughton was manager, they had players like Glenn Murray, they had players like Anthony Knockaert, and yes, they were a decent Premier League club, but they were one of those clubs languishing at the bottom of the Premier League, always looking like they were fighting for survival, and they just narrowly avoided relegation. What Dan Ashworth did that summer, he obviously let go of Chris Hughton as manager, decided to go a different route, and in order for the club to progress, he felt like he should go for a forward-thinking young manager with an attacking football, which is the kind of football that the club wanted to play, the owner Tony Bloom wanted to play. So they brought in Graham Potter from Swansea. He obviously liked what he was doing, not only at Swansea City, getting young players to not only improve in value, but improve as players and as people as well. And he did that as well at Ostersunds on a very tight budget. So obviously that was all the right things, and he's proven to be a revelation at the club. Also, I mentioned before, because Ashworth has so much experience working with youth players, one of his biggest areas of expertise is identifying young players and identifying them at a relatively low cost so that they can either be developed to become better players or appreciate in value for higher sell-on value. For a club like Brighton Hove Albion, that was a very successful model, and he brought in players such as Tariq Lamptey, Jakob Moder, Alexis McAllister, Moises Caicedo, Jeremy Sarmiento. There's so many of these players who they seem like household names, especially Tariq Lamptey, Jakob Moder, Alexis McAllister. They're all now playing for their national teams, and he brought them in before anyone really knew about them. So what does this appointment mean for Newcastle United? Well, hiring Dan Ashworth doesn't epitomise Newcastle United's future, and it certainly doesn't mean that they're just going to become another Brighton Hove Albion. But what it does do, it gives an insight on what the owners are looking for and what their sort of direction and strategy is for the future of the club. I mean, Dan Ashworth took the Brighton and Hove Albion job because it was a proper technical director's job. It meant that he could look after and oversee the entire football department and have influence in every single department and align them as such, as I mentioned before. And I'd imagine that that would be a very similar job at Newcastle United, mainly because they don't actually have the infrastructure anyway. So makes sense. The club hired Nick Hammond, the former Celtic and Reading director of football, as a sort of like temporary consultant to provide counselling and expertise ahead of the January transfer window to basically try and help Newcastle sign some players to help them stay in the Premier League, whilst the owners actually continue trying to find the man that they want long term. It's easy to think that with the label the world's richest club, you'd think that Newcastle United would be trying to buy all the best players in the world by throwing money at their respective clubs and essentially just buying success. But knowing Dan Ashworth's background and his expertise, this quickly sort of like quashes those thoughts. Dan, as I mentioned, is a very firm believer in recruiting and nurturing young players and is very passionate about making homegrown players an important aspect of the first team. In fact, whilst he was at Brighton, they had a goal of making sure that 30% of all minutes played at the club was played by academy graduates and prospects. He's also a firm believer in recruiting smartly, only recruiting in areas that need filling, where a player already at the club isn't able or capable to fill in that role just yet. For example, they didn't sign another goalkeeper. Instead, what they did is they promoted Robert Sanchez from the academy, and now he's thriving as a first-team goalkeeper. There's a more long-term strategy with a well-established procedure that he likes to implement all the way through from the juniors to the women's teams, all the way through to the men's first teams. So although I have no doubt that Dan Ashworth will be appointing a head of recruitment and a recruitment department that's more than capable of identifying players of the caliber that fits the club's budget. I mean, the budget would be far more than any other football club in the world, but it's important that he would also be ensuring that the players that they're identifying is in line with the club's philosophy that he's trying to build. So you can really expect to see the first team obviously improve, but also the women's team as it picks up popularity, and also the academy as well, which I really think will be one of the things he will target straight away once they've sort of solidified safety in the Premier League. So yeah, it sounds like it's a really daunting project, but for someone like Dan Ashworth, you can see why something like that would be attractive to him and too good of an opportunity to turn down. Also, for Newcastle fans, it's pretty good news to see that your owners are actually trying to build some sort of long-term legacy, a genuine legacy at the club like that of Manchester City. And yeah, it's pretty good. It would be a very good appointment if they get Dan Ashworth. So should Newcastle United appoint Dan Ashworth as technical director, which by the time you're watching this video, he probably already is appointed? I think it's fair to say that is a pretty amazing appointment, and exciting times to be a Newcastle United fan, to say the least. But yeah, if you enjoyed today's episode, guys, I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section below what you think of this appointment. Do you think Dan Ashworth is the right man to go for, or do you think they should have gone for someone else? I think someone mentioned like Monchi or something like that as well at Sevilla, who's also a very good technical or sporting director. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, guys, would love it if you can hit the like button for us to support the channel. And if you'd like to see more content like this and you haven't already subscribed, we do a lot of football finance, football economics videos like this one, so be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell button so you can stay notified as well. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you very soon.
Go down and hope it comes back around, 'cause I still just feel like I'm gonna keep running in circles till we find out if all we need is each other.